The world's richest man, I'm sure you have heard, doesn't own Twitter just yet. But Elon Musk said yesterday that once he takes control, he would reverse the company's ban on Donald Trump. Twitter's co-founder, Jack Dorsey, also weighed in, saying he agrees with Elon and supports Trump's return. Despite being allowed back, it does seem that the former president may turn them down. That's according to the man who runs Trump's own social media platform, Truth Social. So DBL Nation, we really want to know what you think about all of this. Should Donald Trump return to Twitter? Yes or no? Go to dblvote.com to weigh in. This is a show that you have your opinions heard. So go ahead and weigh in as we discuss. Lindsay, what do you think about it's not a surprise, but what do you think about it?
I think it's kind of short-sighted for billionaires that own several media companies to be political gatekeepers. It's kind of like that. How did that become the role of these billionaires that now own several different social media platforms? But I also think President Trump said something interesting, that he doesn't want to return to Twitter and that he has Truth Social. And a lot of people are saying that, you know, if he returns to Twitter, all this chaos will come. But he is going to ultimately insert himself in the political discourse at some point. And so whether we find his quotes on Truth Social or whether he goes on a rampage that we film and play somewhere, we're going to hear from him, whether he's in the election supporting midterm candidates. So I don't think that Twitter banning him has really stopped him from getting across his points. I mean, he supported several people in the midterms that have done successfully and won them, you know, won in their regions. And so it's just kind of like, if he wants us to hear from him, we're going to hear from him.
Do you think, but hearing from him on a bigger platform like Twitter is like using a megaphone. So do you think he should be allowed to use that megaphone?
Well, I think people are smart and people have the discernment to mute people or block people or not listen to people, just in the same way that I'm on Twitter and have the option to block anybody who's a white supremacist or offensive to me. And so I think people will decide how they want, whether they want information from President Trump or not if he returns.
Yeah, I agree.
Jeff, what do you think?
I agree with Lindsay. If people want to hear from President Trump, he has outlets to make people listen, right? All you have to do is block him on Twitter. I think we're way too caught up in, like, should Trump come back to Twitter? That's why Elon Musk bought Twitter. It's a business decision. He didn't buy it to let Trump back on the site. People are out of their minds, but that's what they think, right? The Taliban, members of the Taliban are on Twitter. Why aren't they banned, right? This goes back since newspaper days. Whoever controls the press, right, whether it be liberal or Republican, controls what the narrative. Right now, I would say the media, everyone in television, is leaning left, right?
Skews left, yeah.
So they block people from the right. I think it needs to be down the middle. It needs to be more equal. I believe that's what Elon Musk is going to do. Even though he's letting Trump back on there, I believe you need a middle ground. If you dead name somebody, if you say something like, if I called Bruce Jenner, or if I called Caitlyn Jenner a man, I would be banned from Twitter, right? Certain things you need to be banned. If you're a white supremacist, you need to be banned. But there's certain things where it's just too political why people are getting banned, in my opinion. I want it to be more level and down the middle and have an equal playing field.
I really disagree with you both, and I think that's interesting. I want to read some comments here. Rob Reiner says, by reinstating Trump, Elon Musk is condoning lies and disinformation. He's clearly comfortable with someone inciting violence to overthrow our government. Michael says, this is the best news ever. Thank you, Elon. Mike says, let's let all ideas compete, see which make the best sense. Stop trying to muzzle voices that we disagree with. In the week following Trump's ban on Twitter after the insurrection, misinformation about the election fell 73%. It's something different when Trump gets on Twitter because Twitter has the biggest noise of them all. So you're getting more voices. If you really care about disinformation, about COVID, about the government, about lives, then you would take Trump off of Twitter. Now, here's the thing. You also take crazy far left.
Right, you're skewing it, though. You're skewing it to the left.
No, I'm saying you also
And again, you're getting caught up in the whole Trump thing.
I'm not. I'm getting caught up in the
You just read 2 comments about Trump. Yeah, you're getting caught up in the Trump thing.
This whole subject is about Trump.
That's what I'm saying.
We're talking about Trump getting put off Twitter.
Right, you're getting caught. Everyone's getting too caught up with the Trump thing. Block him. It's media's outlets like us, when he tweets something, to repeat that. If you're just reading your information and getting information on Twitter, block him. Don't listen to him.
To me, the meaning of Twitter, that has not free speech because it's not the government, has its own rules. And once you break those rules over and over, let me finish.
Very liberal rules. Yes.
No, excuse me. They are general, genuine rules about misinformation about COVID, about spreading violence and inciting violence. And when you break him over and over again, like he did, and they gave him warning, he continued to do so, and you are off. The left does that too. I believe white supremacists should do that too, as of the Taliban. But my problem, if you have Elon Musk in there, he's going to let everybody on. The racists, the Nazis. He wants every single person on there. And guess what? There will be an exodus of Twitter of people leaving saying, I don't want this noise. I want to wake up.
There won't be, because people want to be heard.
Not when it's noise.
Also, it's good to note that Twitter is not the most popular social platform.
It's not.
It's one of them. Let's be really honest.
No, I was
here.
listening to actually a report on NBC News last night, and it's actually declining. So it's not even the main place, which is why I said we have to trust that Americans are smart enough to gather their information.
They're not.
And okay, but that's offensive to say to people that they're not smart enough. Yeah, because people make decisions based on how they feel and vote based on how they feel.
People storm the Capitol and kill
I understand that, but news outlets also watched President Trump say things that were false and cut off the report and said the truth, right? So people had the option.
Twitter doing that?
Right, but that would mean allow him there and then say this is wrong, just like they did with COVID information. This is misinformation, or like with Joe Rogan putting a slogan that says this is not a news show, this is an entertainment program. That was the option for other media outlets like Spotify. So I think that's the only point, is like that if. Yes, he's a different position because he's president, right? And yes, it led to an insurrection, and that was terrible. But if Elon Musk owns it, this is, again, a billionaire being asked to manage the public and political discourse of other people. And so that's not actually the billionaire's role as a business owner. No business owner actually, that's not their role. That's a philosophy. And if a billionaire who owns like Bezos, who's on the Washington Post, they might not post like a big op-ed from Trump or something like that. It is up to them to decide, because they're not the government.
But why isn't there an uproar about Bezos owning that? He's doing the same thing Musk is doing. They're billionaires trying to control their narrative, but there's no uproar about Bezos doing it, because if you're the left, there is no uproar. If you're the right, there's a huge uproar.
I really disagree with you on that.
But what do you disagree with what I just said? What
I disagree with is allowing disinformation to be said is allowed as political discourse.
But you're allowing disinformation on the left. Do you see what I'm saying? They're both doing the same thing. They're both doing the same thing, but there is no, it's not called discourse when when Bezos does it. It's not discourse. It's just business. When Musk does it, it's discourse. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same thing.
For me, letting Trump back onto, and common sense says Twitter is one of the 4 places you go when you're trying to find out about the news. Letting Trump back on there after we've seen the insurrection, we've seen people die from COVID disinformation, is a disservice and almost a public health emergency to the people who don't know how to discern. Because when you let that information go and you don't check it, it's going to go rampant, and that's what we saw. So I'm against it.
Again, you're getting caught up with the Trump thing. I appreciate your point of view, and I appreciate you having this discussion with me. I really do. I appreciate that, but I think everyone's getting too caught up in Trump. He said he's not even going back on there. I'm saying for the rest of the billions of people that are on Twitter, maybe we need to come to some sort of middle ground here. Forget about Trump. Ban Trump. I don't even care about Trump. Ban him. But we need to come to a middle ground somehow on social media, because it's getting way too crazy in the first place, and media is skewing a little bit to the left.
Interesting. Let's hear what people had to say. No. Should former President Trump return to Twitter? 78% of you said no. 22% of you said yes. I'm all fired up.
No, that was good.
It was good.
I appreciate that.
Warm inside.